Now, look at the situation here, right? Because you've got one parent that is gone and the other is accused of murder. Sometimes the children are young. Sometimes they're, maybe preteens. Sometimes they're grown. Sometimes they're adult. But dealing with these children, what do you say to them? I mean, it's obvious to me that they will need counseling of some sort when you lose a parent and then the other parent's accused of murdering that parent. And then once we put all of this, like we're doing here, and we're putting it in the middle of a trial, and you're bringing people into court and you're calling witnesses, what is the responsibility of attorneys, whether you're a prosecutor or a defense attorney, in dealing with what is so delicate and so difficult, which is the children who have done nothing wrong, but their entire world is falling apart around them. Let me bring in my guests. I got some great ones today. Forensic and clinical psychologist, Dr. Daniela Schreier. Dr. Daniela, all the way to the left. Licensed psychotherapist, Fran Sherman is also with us. With me in studio, criminal defense attorney, trial attorney, Mawuli Davis. I got it right, first time. And criminal defense attorney, Brian Claypool. Great to have everyone here. I want to hear all your perspectives. I will begin with you, Fran. Let's start first with, what do you say? And let's start with family members, okay? Because when something like this happens, it divides families, right? In-laws are not getting along with each other. But the children, they need to be loved by everyone. They need to be cared for by everyone. What do family members on either side say to a child who's in the middle of a situation like this?
I think it's completely imperative that both sides never disparage the other side, because these children need to be loved by both sides of the family, and so you really cannot say anything negative about either family. And I think kids need to know that despite anything, that their parents loved them and love them, and that their families love them on both sides. So I think no matter what the anger is or feelings are on either side, they really need to not let that show to the children, because that's just devastating. Kids need to love their parents regardless of anything.
Dr. Danielle, how about that, right? Maybe there's a conviction, maybe there's not a conviction, there's an accusation, maybe the children are convinced, they aren't convinced, but let's talk about when they're young, right? When they're young.
Yeah.
What do you say to them? What do you say to them about mom being accused of murdering or conspiring to murder dad, or dad murdering mom?
Well, every time a criminal gets caught, it's really the family who pays the price. In this case, the children, convicted or not, because they are not actually protected by prison walls or by jail walls if she's going first to jail, right? I think we have to be very appropriate. It depends on their age and developmental level. They were, at the time of the murder of dad, 2 and 4 years old. At that time, maybe they did not even comprehend, right, the finality of death. They will come forward and ask the same questions over and over again. Where is he? When can he come home? Correct? So they deal with that. They're also not verbal. But children as young as 6 to 9 months express grief different than adults, but we know they have anxious and depressive symptoms. Now, there's the second part to that. They have to deal with it throughout their lifetime. It's not a one-time discussion. The more developed they are, the more they have the capacity, Vinnie, to reason, right, and to express their emotions, they will come forward. So whoever they stay with, it's very important, for example, if they would stay ultimately with Rusty's brother, that they form a firm attachment to these two new adults.
Andrea-Sneiderman, yes, she's the victim's wife in this trial, but she's got her own trial where she is the accused murderer of her own husband. And today here we're talking about the children. In these types of cases that we see too often here on In Session, there are children in the middle of it, and trying to figure out, what do you say to children when they lose a parent and the other parent's accused of murdering the parent that is gone? And one of the issues in this case that has come up with Andrea-Sneiderman's charges is custody of the children. And there was a little bit of a battle between Rusty's parents, the grandparents of the children, and Andrea-Sneiderman, the accused murderer parent. Apparently they have come to some agreement. And Fran Sherman, that's good news in this case, right? You've got the grandparents of the victim agreeing with the surviving parent / accused murderer on how we are going to handle custody and communicating and loving these children.
You know, absolutely, Vinnie, because I think it's really important that now the children are in an environment filled with love, security, safety, and again, I heard the other guests talking, and it was really one thing I want to really allude to, and is say that in this case, you need to start where the child is. So, and it is a lifelong process to learn things, but you never want to give a child more than they're ready to hear at that particular age. That being said, with them being with grandparents, they need to provide, or whomever gets custody, a good, loving, secure environment with no disparaging of the parents, and also therapeutic intervention included. Because
do you wait for questions from the children? Do you wait for the children to start asking questions and then try to answer them, or do you start that conversation?
Well, I think you can start it. I mean, obviously, if they're going to move somewhere, you need to say, you know, you're moving here because of what's happening. But you give them a little bit. If they ask you more questions, you answer them, you know, very kind of generally. But you don't ever want to lie. But you don't want to give them more than they're able to handle. Again, if the 6-year-old is asking something that is too difficult for them to hear, you should explain it in a very age-appropriate way. You know, mommy's going away for a while, or, you know, whatever the case may be. You don't want to say mommy's going on vacation. You don't want to ever lie. But again, you have to start where they are at, and most of the time they will ask you questions. Kids want to know what's happening to their lives.
Absolutely. Dr. Daniela, 2 types of trauma that these children have to go through. One is losing your parent. The second is then, you know, the criminal justice system steps in, and now the other parent on trial, perhaps convicted. Which is more difficult for children, do you think? The loss of the parent, or the fact that the other parent is accused of doing it, and you have to go through the trial?
Sorry, Vinnie. Yeah, the combination of both. It's really terrible to lose a parent, but we know that first off, it's not automatically that they turn out and have a disorder or develop some psychopathology, because many people go through loss. A high percentage of children lose their primary caregiver before the age of 18. It can be overcome with appropriate support. You talk to them in a very constructive, age-appropriate way. Loss is a natural thing. Children are very adaptive. But I think the challenge is really now losing the second parent, and losing the second parent in a way that maybe later on you have to face, oh my God, did she actually contribute to the killing of my dad? So that's detrimental. They already suffer from separation anxiety. We know that the father is dead. Probably they're now much more attached to mom. That's natural. And now they're very scared she's going away. What she has to do at this point, I think, is to provide a transitional object. That could be a toy for each of the children, or even later on, if they would be older, a puppy, whatever, that she leaves with them. She has to prepare them and tell them, you need to take care of this until mommy comes back. There's a perfect opportunity right now. She's wearing most definitely a monitoring device. Children come up, Vinnie, and they will ask you, Mom, what's that? So you can say, hey, this is a bracelet, and this is for people to know where I am. You know, that's important. So the child might say, can I have one? No, you don't need to have one. I explained to you, I might be going away for a long while, but I will make sure that we can be in touch. Don't promise them anything that you can't keep, but prepare the children for the separation. If I might actually add something to our other guests today, I'm doing a lot of child custody evaluations, and I think it will be very unrealistic to believe that one side does not maybe disparage the other side. Especially, it means it's great that the in-laws come forward, or even Stephen, the brother of Rusty, comes forward and wants to take custody. But it will be very difficult not to color the information that they give to the children with their own views. It's traumatic to think that your daughter-in-law might have killed your son, right? And I think there will be a difficulty for the children there.